Good morning, everybody. 8:25 a.m. August 27th. Welcome to my channel. I was on vacation. Now I'm back. Looked like there was a whole lot of nothing going on in the markets, but now NVDA has blowout earnings, keeping AI alive and making sense. Okay, that's the big story this morning. So the markets are gapping up. You guys were in a balance while I was gone and broke out of balance. Now today, Jackson Hole, I believe, starts, but I think Kevin Warsh speaks tomorrow. Jackson Hole. We don't really have any kind of big data coming out today. Okay. We don't have that. So, what else is going on today? Really, it's all about the NVIDIA earnings. It's really all it's about. And maybe the markets can move a little bit today. Well, they have, right? But like in the overnight now, you gapped up pretty strong, kind of pulled back, and you're just in the middle of garbage right now. Okay. That's what's going on. Alrighty. Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steve Gonzalez. Use market profile and buy profile define structure and markets. Almost supply and demand. Gamma exposure of the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That's my edge. What come off my game plans. Now, once that market opens up, use market internals to show where money flows are going off the open. Little ICT, little anchor view up. Little weekly expected move indicator. I give away for three for Thinkorswim on my Discord, as well as gamma exposure levels, specifically gamma flip points for the weekly and the monthlies. Give away for free on my Discord as well. All wrapped up is my own proprietary trading system. Now, hopefully, join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert. All right. Do this every morning. Give you the market news, the economic calendar, technical analysis, and always give you the long and short trade scenarios and ES and NASDAQ features later on in the stream. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you can join my Discord. It's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage. Click on the link and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Check out the futures here. Let's do it. What do we have here? Ethereum up 1.48%. Bitcoin's up 1.36. Nasdaq's up 1%. Silver up 0.5%. ES up 0.44. 10-year yields up 0.26. Crude is basically flat. 30-year bonds flat. Dollar's flat. Russell's flat. Dow's flat. Gold flat. VIX is down 1.78. Okay. Mag 7 plus. NVIDIA with those monster earnings up 6.5%. Micron up 4.22%. Intel up 2.22%. Coinbase up 1.72%. Broadcom. I am Broadcom up. I am definitely Broadcom up. Up 1.46%. AMD up 1.22%. Caterpillar up 1%. All right, who's lagging today? We got Meta down 0.27, Google down 0.36, JP Morgan down almost 0.5%, Microsoft down 0.88, Netflix down 0.96, and Apple down almost 1%. Top sectors. Salesforce had very good earnings, up 10%. GE Vernova, almost up 2.67%. Oracle up 1.62%. Qualcomm up 1%. Laggards. Let's go with the half percenters. Costco down 0.55. Walmart down 0.57. PepsiCo down 0.79. Uber down 0.80. And Visa down 0.86. Let's round out with the sectors. Yeah, it's not a surprise. Semiconductors up 2.89%. Technology up almost 2%. And in the bottom here's energy down 0.37, healthcare down 0.40, staples down almost 0.5%. Financials are your loser this morning, down 0.67%. Alrighty, let's move on to economic calendar, which is not a lot to talk about there. Okay, initial jobless claims has not moved markets at all. Retail inventories hasn't moved markets at all either. Jackson Hole starts today. I don't think where the big boy Kevin Warsh is speaking tomorrow. All right, people want to see what he's going to do with the Treasury bond intervention on the long end of the curve. Let's see how he presents himself tomorrow. What the Fed is handling the current situation with yields and blah blah blah. Right? So just looks like that data just dropped. Like I said, that doesn't really move markets. All right. Trump, I don't really see anything there, so we don't have to go there in details. We know the story is NVIDIA's earnings today. Okay, it's really not a shocker. We do have Fed Hammock speaking at 10 a.m. Okay, like I said, Trump, I don't see anything that's market impactful. Let's get some news here. NVIDIA forecasts 70% sales growth next year. Signals AI spending boom has years left to run. Salesforce raises annual forecast. Told you about that. HP's PC shipments drop, overshadows strong revenue growth. Shares slide. Let's see here. Nasdaq futures outperform peers after AI bellwether NVIDIA's blockbuster forecast renewed investor confidence in AI trade and boosted global tech stocks. Chip giant rose in pre-market trading after a forecast of 7% jump in revenue next fiscal year. Okay. Oil prices fell on expectations that talks between Iran and Qatar might open the Strait of Hormuz and reduce supply disruptions from the Middle East war. Let's see if there's anything else here to note that I don't know about. Let's see here. NVIDIA Melius Research raises target price to 420 from 400. All right, that's about it. All right, I think we're done there. I think we're done there. Let's look at some breadth. We'll start right here. Ooh, let's refresh this page. And ooh, all right. I talked about this a couple last week. Look at that, down to 51% on buy signals. That's going to change today on the NDX. Let's look at the S&P, 62%. It's been going back to middling. Let's look at the technology sector. Yeah, that's at 39%. All right. That's going to jump today as well. And I know two things were on fire was financials. All right, took a little bit of a drop, and healthcare was on fire. Still on fire. Jeez Louise. All right. And we just look at the breadth. Some breadth readings here. We'll do with the 20 first. It's middling. 55% of stocks above the 20-day moving average, and in the 50, I'm going to guess we're around the same. We're 59%. All right, that's not really telling us much. The market's just middling. All right. Alrighty, I think that's good there. Let's look at the internals from yesterday. Not that I saw the market, but we could still analyze those internals. Let's do a little internals recap here. All right, let's see what you guys did yesterday. Looks like you opened up, hit the previous day's highs, then fell down, and then went all the way back up to the. Oh man, what a day! That's what you guys did yesterday. Look, oh, this internal's horrible. Started off strong, gave it back, you balanced, dropped, little V bottom recovery here, and then boom, man, that was not. I mean, if you caught this or caught that, yes, or this, but that is horrible right there. Oof. In the afternoon, just a barcode. And then you closed unchanged, basically. So, not the greatest. All right, now that I'm looking at not the greatest. Let's see here. Negatives, yeah, but they're not that bad. NASDAQ 100 was a -8, means basically 50% stocks above your previous day's close, 50% below. And SP 500, pretty close to the same. Remember, that would be as closer to zero, it means parity. All right, so really nothing to. That was a nothing day, probably prior to NVIDIA's earnings. That's probably why that was the case. And we're going to look at the daily charts now. Let's look at those dailies. Again, it looks like there was disbalance going on before this NVIDIA earnings. Let's see here. We'll zoom in here. All right. So, name of the game here. Let's see. Balance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of balance. And you're trying to break out of that balance right now with the NVIDIA earnings. So, yeah, if you just look at the moving averages, right? You have a flattened out 9. That means balance. You have a rising 20. So, the near term, a little longer moving average is rising. The 50 is still kind of rising but flattening out. All right. So Where are we now? 768.70s. You're right there. Okay. So it looks like this week, since I didn't trade, last week's lows has been support. Last week's lows have been support. Okay. Let's look at features. What do you know? Been struggling in a daily supply zone. That's not a surprise to me. Right now you got a little doji. Okay. And yeah, not a lot going on here. Still last week's lows in daily supply. That makes sense. You don't really, whenever you have the daily supply, you don't really chop through that without a news catalyst. Okay, so that's clear to see. QQQ, that's some nasty moving averages there. Flat 9, flat sloping 50-day down a little bit, and an upwards 20, which means the market doesn't know what it wants. Right? You got a spider web here. That just means the market's not really doing anything. Okay, you could see this. Yeah, it's not doing much. And it did break last week's lows, recovered, and been holding last week's lows. Okay, so a whole lot of nothing going on here. A little more wild than the SPY. Where are we now with this NVDA earnings? 718s. 718. So now you're all the way up here. Okay, all the way up here. Then you got this gap above us. Okay, looks like yeah, gap above us. Let's look at the futures. Okay, there is a daily supply here. That's kind of ugly one, but it is one. I can't deny it. All right, let's see if I can copy that. Let's put that here. Maybe I do one of these. Boop. Ah. All right, let's find out the low at this bottom of this candle here, just to be accurate here. The low is 29375. 29375. Boom. Oh, did the wrong one. 29375. All right. We'll zoom in again. The daily supply. All right. All right. We'll see. A little break out of balance. All right. Not a lot to be excited. You do have a daily supply here. I probably got to put that on my chart as well. Let's just do it now. Let's just do that now. Let's just do that now. There we go. Just want to have that on the chart there. Okay. So, makes sense. Stopping here. That's not a surprise. Okay. Can we break out today and keep going higher? I don't know. Okay. Moving on. Let's go into those 1 hours, because the 1 hours are going to really tell us a lot here. So I have the major supplies here. Let's go to the hourly charts here. Okay. So there's the balance, right? We're gapping up. We're at the midpoint of the overnight session right now. Okay. Very balanced overnight session. And yeah, it looks like you got jumped from the NVDA, ran into major supply, just like I talked about before. Also hit the month-to-date anchor view up. So sellers are back in control. They took control back for a second. All right. Your week to date is buyers in control for the week. That makes sense. This is your guys' week. And then the price is here. So it's green. Red month to date anchor view up. We're at the end of the August. So look, we're in a demand zone. Okay. So the question is does the market at 7705s, which is right about here, is this the buy? Is this the pullback to go higher, or is it a look above and fail, and you guys are going to go back? The ES will go back to around the 76.58 area. It's really all it's about. Last time we did have a look above and fail, and that did go back to the bounce lows. So very interesting to see here if this is just, August. Typically August, right? You go down, and earlier on in the month we made an all-time high, and still, you know, August still is sellers are in control of it. So that's really the thing for me is if we come back into this range that is very bearish, if we start to push into the range, and all these buyers that bought are going to have to cover. They're going to have to liquidate the positions. Okay. Let's go to NASDAQ. All right, NQ. Now, NQ right here is the level I always talk about. The 29530s is the most traded price of this year. That's how crowded this area is. Okay. So I can see NASDAQ broke last week's lows. And then just, man, what ugly trading. And then look, boom, 293s is also a high volume composite, high volume node. That's a composite high volume node from the past, 293s. Okay. Just very crowded area. And the 29530 is the most traded price of the year. Remember before I said you're in heavy supply. Now in the NASDAQ, you're right on the month to date anchor view up. That's 29579s. Okay. So you're basically sellers and buyers are, this is the fair price basically for the month. Again, if this comes back under this, you could go back to 293. And then above that, you have the most traded price of the month is 2975. So you're just in a very crowded area in the NASDAQ. It's going to need to do a lot of work to get above the 29750s. If it does, there is clear sailing above an unfilled gap. But if it doesn't, you're going to come back into the 293s and start going back lower again. Okay. All right. That's your hourly charts. We can move on to the market profile and volume profile now. Alrighty. Let's do it. All right. This is your market profile and volume profile. Now you can see right here. Remember the dark shaded areas is the regular trading hours. Lighter shaded is the overnights. So yesterday's highs are right here. Small gap up. It was a big gap up earlier. Now you have a poor high. All right, you have a poor high or equal high, whatever you want to say, in 30-minute bars at the overnight highs. Hit the major supply, hit an unfilled gap, and has since been selling. Okay, have a demand right here, lines up kind of with the breakout. What do we do today? What do we do today? Who knows? All right, so let's get right into the ES long and short trade scenarios. We're going to breakout session. Okay. So, pretty balanced session. Right at the midpoint of the overnight. Okay. So, right off the bat, let me get my marker out. Right off the bat, we mark off the midpoint, which is right there, the overnights, and the gap fill 7705s. Poor high at the overnight highs. Okay. Like I said, it's all about the balance rules. If we start to creep back into balance, we are heading towards last week's lows. Okay. So, is this just, are we training tech to take the profits? Are we or is tech going to take off? I don't know. Okay. It's really what is going on here. So, let's get right into it. And if this market is going to get some love, it's going to be at the gap fill. Okay. The most traded price of the week is 76.90s. 76.90s, I'd say, is probably your last chance for a bounce. Okay. but you are in demand. Okay, so what I would say is this. If you pull back, the obvious, the 77.05, this could be the pullback people buy. Okay, you also have the close. You closed at the highs yesterday. Okay, so it could also go down to the 77.05 to 77.02 area. Boom, get love, higher low. You target overnight highs with that equal high, that poor high, 77.41. Okay, now you do have a little pocket. Can you really make it? How far can you make it? I don't know. Maybe up to 77.7775s, which is your most traded price of the month. I'm not saying you do that. Okay, it's basically today. Do we have a breakout, a continuation day, or do we have a look above and fail? That's all really it's about. Now, if you do, I want to see this quickly drop into the 76.90s. It has to really rip, put a higher low. Again, I would target 77.41s. Okay, it's really all I'm interested in as far as longs. Okay, shorts. Gets interesting here. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, not an easy thing. Okay, you do have fresh supply up here at the overnight highs. You do have heavy supply overhead. All right, maybe we get a push higher into this supply, and we don't hit the overnight highs. We just reject. Right now, you have to look for. If you do this, go to gap fill first, 77.05, then target the 76.90s. Now, if there's momentum here and you do not get a good bounce, this is where the look above and fail balance rules comes in, and you hold some runners to 76.57. Last week's lows, the balance lows. Okay, there is an unfilled gap still down there that we have not filled either. Maybe we go down there, I'm not sure. Okay, and just to give you the right color here, I didn't change the color. So let's do that one more time. Again, that's a pushback into this supply around the 77.31s. Okay, failure here. Put in a lower high. You can go short. Target gap fill 77.05, 76.90s, the most traded price of the week. Then go for the balance lows 76.57. Okay, this is where it gets tricky. Okay, this is where it gets very, very tricky. Okay, if you come down here, right, I need to see acceptance below the 76.90s. Like, say you start coming in here, maybe even take out that demand that's below it and start to hold and hold and hold. And then I'm going to look for a retest to 76.90. And if I see internal supporting, oh man, people are taking profits out of the tech, then I'm going to target the 76.57. Take advantage of the balance rules, the look above and fail. Okay? That's all I'm seeing in the ES right now. Let's look at the NASDAQ together. All right, so the NASDAQ's gap is still pretty big. It's definitely a different picture here. However, remember I talked about how crowded this is. Let's just show you in a daily chart of the NASDAQ here. Just to reiterate here, look at all this volume. Price, guess what? Right in the middle of it. That's as clear as day what I'm talking about, how crowded this is. Okay? That's a choppy area. It's a big area, okay? Huge area of volume. That's what we've been trading at pretty much all year. I mean, just look. Okay, that's how crowded that is. Doesn't bode well for great trading. Okay. So let's go back. Just wanted to reiterate that. Okay. You have to have that in your thesis. Flat anchor VWAP for the month right there, 29578. You're at the most traded price of this year, 29531s. Let me just show you that real quick so you guys can see that as well. Here's that most traded price of this year, right there, that hot pink line, 29531s. Okay, right there. Okay, so we are gapping up. Let's get right into the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq. We are going to mark off the 50% retracement of the overnight, 29476. Okay. Gap fill, 29375, yesterday's highs. Okay. The major levels we just talked about, the most traded price of this year, 29530 is the most traded price of the month, 297.5, and also the 293. That's how crowded we are. Those are major, major, major areas where the market likes to chop. All right. The most traded price of the week is around 29270s. Let's just call it. We're around the 293s. Now, you just went into big supply zone here, right? A lot of longs are up here with this news. Okay, so let's break out the session. Again, these big gaps are never the easiest. Okay, you came down, you got the love, pulled back, got more love. Maybe it almost looks like a double top here, pushing back. Where? 29530 is the most traded price of the year. I'm not gonna lie, longs could be trapped up there again. Okay, again. So, major supply above, major crowd at levels I just showed you. This, to me, right here, oof, I think longs have a really hard job. Really does look that way to me. Don't get me wrong, it can work. All right, it can work. But I'm on right off the bat. I gotta look. We're gonna do shorts first because I really believe this. It just shows me right here, right? Double top, basically. You know, longs got paid, took profits, and they're going to take profits again. This heavy supply, right? Major volume here. All right, so start with the first scenario. Okay. To me, if you fail at the 29530s, okay, what I'm going to look for is a retest of the 29530s, which happens to be the overnight VBOC. That could go right back and you target that gap fill 29375s. Okay. And again, this is not the prettiest of balances, but it would be a look above and fail. Okay. You target that 29266. Okay. Or the 29291s, which is overnight lows. If you break through that level, let's call it the 293 to 292 area. This doesn't look good for NASDAQ. It really doesn't. Okay, you can go down to the 29095. So there's a ton of stacked demand down here. Okay. Now, another short would be you push up very quickly, take out the overnight highs. Okay. And that's it. You sweep it, close back inside the overnight range, put it in a lower high. That's where you target the gap fill, 29375. Okay. Then you go for the 29291s. Okay. So very interesting here, right? Like what I'm seeing, it's going to be hard for the Nasdaq to go higher. Okay, that's what I'm seeing. Let's move on. Longs. This is not easy here. It really is not. I just there's such heavy supply up here. It could work. Like I said, there's no doubt. Okay. It's just, I really don't see, unless it's early volume does the job. Okay. So, what could happen here? Okay. Let's say the market pulls back. You get that little correction. Okay. And now I see that there's like kind of like a breakout level here at 29416s. That's in this demand. Okay. If you do get some love with a higher low, that could be the long, target 29661 and possibly go to 297 and a half. Not saying it can't happen. Okay. Another pullback would be obvious to the gap fill, 29375s and the close. Get some love. I would target 29530s, then go for the overnight highs, 29661s. Okay, I'm not saying this could not happen. So I'm looking more for pullbacks. Okay, we have to see, right? I think again, it's going to be not easy because this Nasdaq is very big gap up at a major level, the most traded price of the year, right? So, not what I'd like to see. Okay, not what I'd like to see, and I think that there's going to be a disconnect, possibly. We have to see. I don't know. Okay, but that's what I'm looking at today. All right, that's really what I'm looking at. All righty, that is it for me, folks. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that analysis. That would mean a lot to me. As always, I hope you join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert, give you the market story, technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES futures. Okay. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. All right, everybody. I have our plan. Hope you have your plan as well. All right. Remember, no trade is a trade. Okay. I forgot my vacation wasn't the longest, so I'm back today. I'll probably go live 9:45 a.m. today. Hopefully you can join me. If not, I'll see everybody tomorrow. All right, everybody, take it easy. Have a great day.